All right, ladies and gentlemen, take out your notes. We are starting because I have a ton of background history that you need to know about Iran. Are we at least excited we're in Iran? I will tell you the vocab is tricky. Because it's a language we're not particularly familiar with. Can we agree? It's going to be rough, is what I'm going to say. It's going to be a tough day. No, because it's been translated for you. It's not in the Arabic script, but it's going to be fun. Here we go. At the top of your notes, right? Week 23, Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan, put your phone away. Underneath it, your first heading is going to be history. Okay, there's a couple things you need to know before we can talk about the impact or the foundational components of Iran. Okay, first thing you need to know is that the territory of Iran, write it down. The territory of Iran will be given to England post World War I. Who can tell me what's the name of the system? Oh, Jimmy, my heart is so happy. Okay. Iran will be given to the British in the mandate system. The mandate system is what, Jimmy?
European countries get a lot of aid.
From what collapsed empire? There you go. Okay. You need to know, you need to write this down. Iran has oil. Iran has oil, hence why it's valuable to the British. Okay, you do not need to write this. Listen, let me tell you what happened during World War I. In World War I, we have horses and machines fighting in World War I. Which one becomes clearly the more valuable of the two? Machines. So, at the end of World War I, everyone in the world realizes that the future is no longer horses, but the future is... And in order to make machines work, you need to have what? Oil. So the whole world needs oil. So, when the war ends in 1918, the Ottoman Empire is officially done. The British use this as an opportunity to make a mandate or make a colony out of Iran in order to extract their oil. And that is how they get in there in the first place. Okay? Beforehand, no one really cared about the Middle East because it didn't really have a ton of value post Silk Road trade. Now that oil has been discovered, where does everyone want to be? In the Middle East, for sure. Okay, you do need to write this down. The British will extort the oil for their own benefit, with no payment to the Iranians. The French and Americans benefit. You need to know that. Write it down. French and Americans benefit. So, when the British are taking the oil, it's not like they're selling it to other countries. They're selling only to the British. They're only selling to the British and the French and the U.S. If 100 gallons of oil costs $100, they're going to drop the price for themselves and other people in order to help sustain their growth. So it's to their benefit. Okay. Your next thing, post-World War II. So still under history. We're moving on to the next thing, post-World War II. Write it down, brother. You need to know, colonies are forbidden. Britain loses Iran. And gives them up as a colony, but leaves behind oil companies. So, the British no longer control the government of Iran, but they still control the oil of the country. Good look, bad look. It's not a great look. Okay, you need to also know the United States has lots of companies in Iran as well. Write it down. Okay, so the United States and the British are going to have tons of oil companies in Iran exploiting the Iranians. Okay, listen to this. So, British colony can no longer be a colony post World War II. So the Iranians are trying to create their own government. When you have your own government, you vote someone into power or you elect someone to be in power. Okay? The British and the U.S. want someone who's pro-West. Why? Why do they want a pro-West leader of Iran, Brooklyn?
Good gas prices and easy to get deals with.
Yes, absolutely. They want someone who's pro-America, who's going to allow America to continue to exploit the Iranian oil to their benefit. Absolutely. So they have a vested interest in getting pro-Western. So anytime someone is rising in popularity in Iran that is anti-West, what do you think happens to him? Yeah, it's really strange. They keep dying. However, a pro-Western person will rise to power, and this is going to be Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Write it down. You have to know his name. It's a non-negotiable. Okay, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi is an Iranian who is pro-U.S. and Britain. So, the U.S. put him in power so he can make sure they get what they need. Okay? Someone's like, well, why would he be nice to the U.S.? Because we bribed him. That's why. We gave him lots and lots of money, and we also threatened his family. Whoops. Here we go. So, with that being said, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi has been put into power in Iran. How do you think the people of Iran feel about him when he starts doing super pro-West things? There you go. They are going to rebel. So, you need to know, and this is a non-negotiable, 1979, Jimmy put it away. In 1979, the people of Iran will overthrow Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. You have to know it's in 1979. They are going to overthrow, the people of Iran will overthrow Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Now, during the turmoil of the revolution, leaders will start rising into power. The Americans will kill them. Oops. You need to know that we get caught red-handed, ladies and gentlemen. Write down. Americans get caught attempting a coup d'etat. What is a coup d'etat? C-O-U-P-E space T-U-T-A-T-E. A coup d'etat. What's a coup d'etat, Sophia?
It's like when there's a sudden seize of power.
What's a coup d'etat? Grant.
Well, I was just asking you to repeat the spelling.
Oh, it doesn't matter. A coup, you can just write a coup, C-O-U-P-E. It's fine. Riley?
Is that one of the military leaders?
No, it's not always military leaders. What? It's not our military, it's our CIA. Jordan?
Trying to infiltrate another government.
Yeah, it's when you try to infiltrate or overthrow. It's a small group of people overthrowing a government. That's what a coup d'etat is, okay? Fun fact, in the 1900s, we're big fans of them. We're like super big fans as a country, and we do this in many, many countries. Like many, many countries. And some countries, like 8 times. Which means we overthrow people we don't like to put in people we... And we see this many, many times, hence why a lot of countries really don't like us, including... So, we get caught red-handed in Iran trying to do a coup d'etat against their own revolution. Okay, so the people have finally rebelled against the leader we picked for them. They're rebelling, and then we try to kill them. Oops, we get caught. You need to put a big star. This is going to put, excuse me, this is going to push Iran to become extremely, and right underneath it, extremely conservative fundamentalists. Okay, think about it. One of my favorite photos that I've seen is in the 1960s, so pre-1979. There are these gorgeous women in Iran with mini skirts on, like the big old boots black boots with the heels and their long share hair, and they got little cute little crop tops, and they are standing in the university's library getting a doctorate in mathematics. What about that picture can happen today? Yeah, they would totally be stoned to death, actually. Okay? You cannot dress like that in Iran if you're a woman. You cannot get a doctorate in Iran if you're a woman. And Woski Bobrovsky, your parents would probably be killed as well. Okay? So, what we see is a reaction. Write it down. It is a reaction to Western intrusion. That is why they swing so conservative. It's because they blame all of their problems on the West. Now, are some of their problems genuinely blamed on us for a good reason? Yeah, we totally did at least 3 coups and 1 failed. So, oops, in Iran. With that being said, they are going to, because of us in the United States, instead of becoming a country that's trying to deal with democracy, they go incredibly conservative because of the actions of our nation. Okay? Now, there's also a lot of other problems in it, but the United States is number 1. Now, this is the nation, Iran is the nation that burns American flags. Have you ever seen people burning American flags? Okay, and hear people scream, death to America, death to America. Every time, okay, not every time you've seen it, but 99% of all those times it's Iran. It gets worse. So, you need to know, the Iranians, write it down, the Iranians will break into the consulate, write it down, the Iranians will break into the consulate in Tehran, which is up here. Where is it? Up top, Tehran. What is Tehran? It's the capital of Iran. They break into the consulate in Tehran and hold the American staff hostage for 444 days. What? Spell it out, dude. Okay? So, when we are talking about, this is the Iranian hostage situation, ladies and gentlemen. There's a couple movies made about it. They end up holding a ton of Americans in hostage situations over and over again. Okay, you also need to put a star. This will begin terrorist activities by Iran. Now, Iran is going to be one of the first countries to really start using terrorism. Why would a country like Iran choose to use terrorism than their military? Why? Why would a country do that, Lucas? Thank you for listening. I know it's 8th period, but I need you to be paying attention because this is important stuff. Okay, Iran is going to use terrorists, not their military. Why? Well, if they didn't like us, they would use our military. Why are they using terrorists, not military? Brooklyn.
Because there would be an act of war for using the military.
Okay, so what would be the direct cause of that?
The United States government.
If they do something with their military, we respond with
Military.
our military. And just a quick question, whose is better? Yes. Okay? So, the reason why terrorism has grown exponentially since the 1970s is because of the threat of nuclear retaliation. Write it down. The threat of nuclear retaliation is the reason why terrorism has grown exponentially. Who can explain that? Brennan, what do I mean by nuclear retaliation?
Like, they, like, drop a ball and then they're gonna put it back. And it's gonna be like, just like a lot of people dying. So,
What's the unique component about Iran? David?
No, like, I guess, like, their bite isn't gonna be as hard as
Ours, well, absolutely. Okay, we have nukes. Does Iran have nukes? No, they don't have nukes. So if they do anything militarily to the United States, what can we possibly do? Blow them off the planet. Yes? Okay? That's a very big threat. They don't have the weapons we do. It's an unfair fight. So they cannot pick a fight with us in a way they definitely are going to lose, yes? So instead of going after our military, they go after us, American psychological. Terrorism is a psychological war. If you haven't figured that out, I can't help you here, people, because here in the United States, we happily take off our shoes at the airport to make sure we all feel more comfortable getting on a plane. Yes? Because how many shoe bombers have we had in the United States? One. And it was a failed attempt. They ended up stopping the bomb from going off, but he did have a bomb in his shoes. Okay? Terrorism is used to scare the populations of civilians, not the government. Okay? So, what you are going to see, the Iranians are going to use terrorism on a major scale. They are going to bomb the Olympics, and they kill like 15 people at the Olympics. They're going to start kidnapping Americans all around the world. A bunch of them get kidnapped in Paris, Munich, a bunch of places. And they're held hostage, and they're mutilated to a degree, okay? And the whole reason is why? They can't make war because their country is going to, but they want to show their frustration with the United States and the manipulation of the United States. That's what terrorism is, and that's why countries use it. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, so with that being said, Iran will be labeled as a terrorist state. Write it down. And what is the action that we give to countries who the rest of the world deems? What do we do to countries to punish them? We give them what? Sanctions. So, Iran as a country is going to be created in 1979. By 1978, this new country already has a ton of sanctions. And it is going to be crippling to their economy. Write it down. These sanctions are going to be crippling to their economy. Is that going to make the Iranian people more understanding or more pissed off? More pissed off, and that is going to cause even more situations. Okay, what do you got? Sure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a couple big things you do need to know. Okay? You do need to know that Iran is not liked by its peers. Write it down. Iran is not liked by its peers. Now, who is the most hated country in the Middle East? No, it's not Iran, actually.
Israel.
It's Israel. Israel is the most hated country in the Middle East by all the countries in the Middle East. It is Israel. Why is it Israel?
Because the United States
Yeah.
created it, or
Yeah, they absolutely created it. The UN sanctioned it, the US created it. We went in there and plowed the territory, cleared the land, and said, ta-da, here you are. There has been tons of issues. Palestine, Israeli conflict is a hot damn mess, and every single person in this room needs to come up with their own opinion on it. It's a mess. They're bombing each other.
Yeah,
23 people died last week in the conflict. I think 6 Israelis, 13 or 14 Palestinians died just last week. I mean, the war back and forth, terrible. Everyone in the Middle East hates Israel. They hate it on different levels, but everyone hates Israel. The second most hated country in the Middle East is Iran. What is the historical reason why Iran is hated? Ford. What makes Iran different from every other Islamic country? They're Shiites. Yes. You should know this term. I taught this to you. You need to know Iran is Shiite, which means they are the minority Islamic sect, which means the rest of the Middle East is what? Sunni. The rest are everyone. There's only been 2 governments in the history of the world that are Shiite. It's one of your traditional Persian ones, and then this one with like 400 years gap in between them. This puts them at odds with every other country in the Middle East. The biggest reason why there is mistrust is this cause. Make sure you put a big star. You have to know It is because of the Sunni Shiite shift. You cannot talk about Iranian politics without knowing it. Now, Shiites believe that the Caliph should be a descendant of Muhammad. Sunnis believe what, Jake?
It doesn't have to be.
There you go. It's the most qualified, and that's where every other Islamic country is based on. Okay, perfect, guys. We are moving. Okay. You need to know about Iran before we really get started. They hate America because we toiled with their economy. Now, what country is leading the sanctions against Iran once they start doing terrorist activities? We do. So, you need to know, ladies and gentlemen, that these sanctions are going to destroy Iran's economy, and who do they blame entirely? So, who do they hate really, 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 really more than anything? America, which is why they shout death to America. Okay. So far, what you need to know is there was a guy named Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. He was put into power by the U.S., removed by the Iranian Revolution in 1979. It is going to create the Iranian hostage situation, which will create terrorist acts around the world and lead to economic sanctions against Iran, which makes them one of it's the poorest oil nation in the world, by the way. Does that tell you a lot? Because no one buys their oil except for Russia. I don't even think China buys their oil. Okay, here you go. This is where Iran is located. Okay, now the next thing you need to write down for history that you do need to understand is the Iran-Iraq war. Write it down. The next thing you need to know about the history of Iran is the Iran-Iraq war. You should know this. You lived it. It was maybe, I don't know, how old are you people? What year were you born?
7,
Ah, shit, you weren't alive.
90s.
Yeah, early 90s. Anyway, all right. In the Iran-Iraq war, you need to know, write this down, the U.S. back Iraqi Saddam Hussein. Oh my God, do we know this name? What do I mean by back? When I say the U.S. backs Saddam Hussein, what does that mean, Jack?
Like the U.S. gives them our support.
Well, what does that mean, Jack?
Like we provide troops and
Okay, we don't typically provide troops. Not since World War II. We don't like putting our own boots on the ground. We typically give guns, planes, helicopters, bombs, rockets. Okay, we give them all the cool stuff. All of the big fun toys that America has plenty of. So, we give Saddam Hussein guns, trucks, planes, helicopters, in order for him to invade Iran. So, we support Saddam Hussein to invade Iran and overthrow it. What happens? He fails. You need to write down Saddam Hussein fails. So what does he do? Why do you know his name? You don't know him because he fails invading Iran.
He turns on
Sort of.
Snitched.
No. Everyone knew. Everyone knew all that money was going. What does he do? Why is he Saddam Hussein?
I know.
Okay, write down. He goes back to Iraq, uses those weapons for crimes against his own people. By the way, who gave him those guns? Who gave him those gases? Who gave him those bullets? Who gave him those planes? So what does the United States have to do? Yeah, we gotta go in there and remove them. How does our political policies look like they're doing in the Middle East? Yeah, it's not a very effective system here in the United States for our political foreign policy in the Middle East. It doesn't look great. You need to know that the United States will invade Iraq and remove Saddam Hussein from power. I think he officially falls. I think he gets hung in 2002? Something like that. It's early 2000s. Okay, we invade. Nope, it's not. It's in the late 90s. 2002 is when the video went online. Whoop. Okay. Those are the things you have to know going forward. Can we see the United States is playing a huge role in Iran? And it doesn't go well. And it makes the Iranians very cranky. Okay. You need to know present day problems for Iran underneath it. These are all frame of reference. When we start talking about the government, we have a basic idea. Current day problems. Iran wants nuclear warfare. Why is Americans terrified of that? Well, they have done terrorist things, and they say the biggest threat to Iran is, us. So, fun fact: this week they had their first successful nuclear fusion. Yeah, so they're like a couple steps into the process of having successful nuclear weapons. I would also like it known, obviously here in the United States, we're not big fans of this idea, and we have literally done a ton of things to try to avoid it. Every president in the last 30 years has tried dealing with this. No one's figured it out. Okay? On the other side of it, no one in the Middle East wants them to have it either. Why? Because they hate each other as well. Iran is the really oddity in the whole Middle East. They are one of the poorest nations. They are the poorest nation in the world who has oil because of all the sanctions on them. They do not get along with any of their neighbors. Okay? And the fact that they hate America as much as they do has eliminated them from trade from a lot of other countries as well. What do you got?
So they have all that oil that
They don't have a ton of oil. Let me be clear. What is the most oil-dense country in the world? Saudi Arabia. Okay, Saudi Arabia is the most oil-dense country in the world. In the 1960s, they don't discover oil until the 1960s. So the mandate system would have absolutely enthusiastically included Saudi Arabia if they knew it had oil post-World War I, even at the end of World War II. But they don't discover oil until like the 60s. That's why they've never been colonized. Do we see the difference here? You have to understand the colonization of the British is really going to mess up Iran with the punishing components, and then the British and the United States are going to make it worse, even.
Is there a reason that Hussein turned on his people, or he kind of just did?
He just wanted to keep power, and that's all. Because people didn't like that he took money from the United States to invade Iran, even though he kind of just went into Iran and like, oh man, it didn't work, and like walked back. People didn't like that he did it, so anyone who opposed him, he would crush dramatically. He increased his own wealth, did nothing for the betterment of his people, and then used American weapons to slaughter populations, like huge swaths of populations of them. When you hear Saddam Hussein, you don't really think warm thoughts. Can we agree? Yeah. What do you got?
So if everyone hates Iran and like is scared of Iran, why don't we just?
Because that's not a solution. What do you mean? Like just blow up the country and just leave it alone? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's just be clear, because this has come up in every single one of my classes. And someone in every class is like, well, why doesn't America just solve the problem? And just, hi, what has gotten us to this spot in the first place? Americans going in and killing the leaders of countries. There are a lot of countries in the world who hate America. Why? Because we're powerful and we obviously have powers that other countries don't. The other reason is because we have a history of going in and killing leaders to replace them with pro-American forces. Not a great look, people. You can't just wipe out people because people are people. And every single person on this planet has the right to exist. And because they don't align with us politically does not mean they deserve death. Can we agree? Well, it's not every single person in Iran is like walking around going to kill Americans when they see them. That's not it. It's the policy of the leaders of the nation. Now, you have to understand that the conditions of Iran for the average citizens are really hard because of the economic sanctions that have been on them since the moment their country started. So they're very poor. They have very little economic opportunities, which makes life very hard. So when these people are frustrated, of course they're frustrated with America, because America has had a lot to do with it. Can we agree? Now, I am in no way telling you that Iran is wonderful and America is the problem, because that is not it at all. Iran has a ton of problems. Human rights violations out the wahoo. They do horrible things to their people. They are not without sin here. But it is also an acknowledgement of our own problems. Can we agree? So the idea of just wiping out an entire country of people because they do not agree with us politically is in a very American way to think, by the way, and doesn't solve any of the problems, because this has continually, do whatever you're doing. So, solving that is a huge problem that no administration has been able to do. It's a big deal. So, first thing, new problems is what? Oh, they want nuclear weapons. The second thing is we have the current protests in Iran over women's rights and the destabilization of Iran. So that's currently what's going on. So a 23-year-old woman was arrested by the morality police in Iran for not wearing her hijab correctly. They arrested her, and under arrest, she was killed 3 days later. She was dead 3 days later. So the whole country is in rebellion, and they estimate between 500 and 700 people are dead, and they publicly executed 4 people. Like straight up in like the middle of a square execution. Those are the ones they've done publicly. How many privately do you think they do? Oh, absolutely. If we're thinking 400, it's 500 people, it's way more. With that being said, there's lots of issues here. Iran is not without blame. They have done horrible things. But also be aware that there is some criticism here on the United States that we do have to listen to. Can we agree? Because making the same mistakes is going to cause other Iranian problems. And when you think about Iran today, who is a major reason and why Iran is the way Iran is? Yeah, it's us. It's me. I'm the problem. See what I did there? Okay. All right, here we go. Iranian government's your next heading. Okay, you need to know the head of state is Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Okay, somewhere in your notes, you're going to make a box. And you're going to write Supreme Leaders. Somewhere in your notes, write Supreme Leaders. Maybe off to the side, somewhere you can write. You need to memorize these two. The first Supreme Leader, ladies and gentlemen, is Ayatollah Khamenei. They're not the same people. There's 2 of them in all of the history of Iran. You need to memorize these names. You need to know Ayatollah Khomeini comes in during the revolution of 1979. He's the first. The second one is the one we currently have. Ali Khamenei. They have very similar spellings, but they're not the same person. Someone was like, they're the same person. They are not the same person. They are 2 different people. You're not going to argue they look the same too? Are you going to argue they look the same? They do not look the same. I wouldn't say very different. I mean, they got the white beards going, but they are 2 different people. For a 6th period, we literally spent 10 minutes on addressing the difference between them. So, you need to know that there are 2 supreme leaders in the history of Iran. One that comes into power in 1979. The second one is in power, and he's been in power for 30 years. Put a star. They cannot leave the country. Okay, why can't the supreme leader or the head of state of Iran leave the country? Why, Nick? Yeah, assassinations obviously would be pretty high on the list. And also they would get arrested for crimes against humanity. Okay? Because remember, people really don't like Iran, but Iran has also done some really shitty things too. Is everyone clear on that? Okay? The United States has done some really crappy things. We've also done some really good things. Can we agree? No one is all bad. No one is all good. Iran has a lot of problems. They would be arrested. So they are the head of state, but they don't leave the country. It's very unique to Iran. Okay, the head of government, ladies and gentlemen, is that guy. Okay, the head of government is pretty powerful, like has no power, not powerful, has like no power. Head of government has really no power. The supreme leader calls all the shots. They are an illusion of what? This person's elected, so it's an illusion of? It's an illusion of democracy. That's what it is, and you need to know that. Your head of government is an illusion of democracy. So, your head of state is known as the supreme leader. Next to your supreme leader, can you put a star? They're religious. They're both religious and political leader of the country. Okay? Okay. So, here you go. You need to know Iran is a unitary system. Write it down. What does a unitary system mean, Mr. Clark?
Powers all central government.
There you go. So who is in direct power of Iran? Because it is an authoritarian regime. What's his title at least?
Supreme leader.
There you go. Supreme leader is the direct authority of Iran. He has power over all aspects of Iran. You need to know it is a theocracy. It is the only theocracy we study, and that makes it really unique. And Emily, what is a theocracy? My heart is breaking, Emily. Oh my God, we just talked about it, my love. They're based entirely on what?
Oh, wow.
No. What is it, Sophia? They're religion based. All the rules are tied to their religion. Write it down. Okay, so they're a theocracy. Everything is tied to religion. And what religion is it, Selena? Shiite Islam. So they're Islamic, specifically Shiite. Write it down. You also need to know because they're Shia, because they are Shiites and they are Muslims, they follow the Sharia law, which is right here. If you don't know how to spell it, write it down. Who made Sharia law? Who made it? Think about it. Who made it, Caitlin? You're not Caitlin. I don't know if you've noticed. Muhammad. Write it down. Muhammad created Sharia law in the 640s. Does anyone know when he spoke to Allah for the first time? Guys, you should know these things. Jordan, Ford, I taught you these.
The first couple weeks is full of I literally don't know any of the religion stuff.
Oh my God. All right, 632. He speaks to Allah. Allah is Arabic for God. Yes? Okay. 632. He speaks to Allah for the first time. Allah gives him all the directions. It takes him about 10 years. You don't need to write this part, but you should know 632 because, it's going to be the largest religion in the world by the time you have kids. Like, seriously, you should know this. Anyway, so 632, Allah speaks to Muhammad for the first time, and Muhammad then becomes the prophet of Islam. It takes him about 10 years to, get his, shit together, essentially. And then he goes and tries to take Mecca. He tries to take it, and it's a failure, militarily. And this is, the big defining difference between Christianity and Islam. Jesus never picked up a sword, a knife, or anything in the name of religion or faith or anything, which was why people put him on a pedestal, because he still was able to change the world. Fine. Muhammad does command a military, and they try to take Mecca, which is why some people think that Islam is incredibly brutal and bloodthirsty and all that stuff, which is completely untrue. It's completely untrue. Do not think that. It's a very peaceful religion, but that's what people say.
What time is it? Weekend.
I hate this kid.
Before you all leave, you're the announcement. Calling all.
I hate this
Time
kid.
to get ready to relay for Elijah. Time to our first.
Okay.
meeting.
What you do need to know, Sharia law is created by Muhammad. The Iranians implemented in 1979. The exact law code.
Monday, the 6th of February, to Wednesday.
So who loses rights immediately?
on the 5th. We're at-
Women absolutely dramatically lose rights because of Sharia law.
With any questions? At this time.
It's 1979 they implemented it.
Grant Panthers.
So yeah. There you go. Don't you think this is interesting?